In Bangladesh, the flood is on the retreat. It is the start, not the end of a disaster. A woman walks through what had once been her village. The village has now been obliterated, washed away by the flood. It is the worst flood for 20 years. It's covered the land, more than half of Bangladesh, for 3 months. For 58 days in succession it rained, 5 inches a day. Rivers became torrents. The houses which stood at their edge were smashed. People and livestock were drowned. In this small corner of Bangladesh, there used to live 4,000 families, more than 20,000 people. They've been made destitute by the flood. Bangladesh has floods every year. Without them, she could grow no rice. But if they're too slight, the rice withers and the people starve. If they're too great, the rice drowns and the people starve. This year, the rice has drowned. Once, this was all land. Now, it is all river. The people have lost their houses and their possessions. They've no work, no money, and no food. Their village and their land are lost forever. Even in a good year, October and November are the dangerous months, months of anxiety when stocks are low. This year, there's not anxiety, but desperation. For this year, much of the summer crop, which should now be in store to feed the people till Christmas, lies rotting on the water. Below the water, ruined, are the seedlings for the next crop. This year, those who fled to the safety of high ground are without food. They camp in makeshift huts, waiting for relief which doesn't arrive. Could you ask this person here what has happened to him, please?
আপনার কি হয়েছিল বন্যার সময়?
বন্যার সময় যা গত
আপনার
আমার এই আষাঢ় মাস
What does he say?
আষাঢ় মাস হয়েছে
he lost his cattle and he came here just during the flood and is staying here till today.
Did he have land?
He has got land.
And what happened to the land?
That has been eroded by River Meghna.
It has been covered by the water. What does he have now, can you ask him?
কি আছে আপনার এখন?
এখন নাই সব কিছু এখানে একসালা আছে আর
he has this only, nothing else.
This shelter?
And this shelter.
এখানে বেশি বিক্রি করে খাইলেছে
And he sold out one part of this hut.
What do you mean, he sold half the hut?
Half the hut for purchasing food.
In order to buy food? Can you ask the man next to him what has happened to him?
আপনার কি হয়েছিল?
আমার বন্যার সময় যাওয়া জমি ছিল নদী লেগে গেছে দুটি বাচ্চা আছে জৈবক দুটি বাচ্চা পাই না এই বন্যা লেগে গেছে
বন্যা বাসায় নিয়ে গেছে
পাওয়া গেল না
What does he say?
He lost his 2 sons during the flood. They are still untraceable.
He's lost 2 sons?
2 sons.
জায়গা জমি গরু বাছুর ছিল আরো
And he has land, he has cattle, everything lost.
How much food is he getting at the moment? How much food are they all getting
দিনে
here?
কতটুকু খাবার পান?
দিনে এক বেলার খাওয়া চলে না
কিছু আটা মাটা
এটা ওটা কোনো না কোনো
ভাত আমরা দেখি না ভাত খাইতে পাই না সব
এক বেলায় সারাদিন কাম করতে পাইলো 100 সালের দাম করতে পারে না
They are not getting a full meal in a day. They are starving.
They say they're starving. What will happen to them? Will they get food tomorrow and the day after, next week? How will they get food then?
ভবিষ্যতের দিকে কি অবস্থা হবে?
খোদা কি করে
খোদায় যা করুক এই খোদায় যা করুক আমার সামনে
What do they say?
They say what they know. They don't know.
They
God
don't know.
knows the yesterday's position, what will be.
Does he think that his life in his village is finished now?
Finished now. তো বাঁচার কি আশা নাই?
বাসা আশা তাহলে খোদাই বাসালে সে বাসা
খোদায় যদি বাঁচায় তো
বাসা তো আশা আছে খোদাই যে বাসা
If God permits, they can live.
If God permits, they can live.
They can live.
And are all the other people here, are they in the same state?
Almost. অন্যান্য যারা আছে তাদের অবস্থা কি একই অবস্থা?
একই অবস্থা সব এই বেরি
ওই কোনো একটা কাজ ফেলে পরে কিছু আন্না
ঘর নাই দূরদর নাই কিছু নাই আমরা কোনভাবে
All other people
5-6 দিনের লোক
like this.
5-6 দিনে না
All the other people are like this.
Are like
হ্যাঁ
this.
5-6 দিনে না হয় লোক আছে এরকম কোন রকম
There are some people who are starving for last 6 days.
Can you ask her when she last had food to eat?
4 days back.
4 days ago.
4 days back. She is starving for last 4 days.
What do you think will happen to these people yourself? You are a government official, you know this area. What is likely to happen to most of these people?
This is quite uncertain.
It's quite uncertain.
Quite uncertain.
Because it's so difficult to get relief into these areas.
It's very difficult.
Do you think some of these people will die, in fact?
Some may. There are some possibility that some will starve to death.
That some will starve to death?
Starve to death.
Thank you. Thank you for talking to me. And this is another...
আমরা এই কাপড় চোপড় পাই না হিমতে বিদে
আমার বাড়ি বিয়া চলাচল করতে
অবস্থা খারাপ
আমি ভাত খাই না 5-6 দিন ধরে পুত্র দিন
ঘর নাই দুয়ার নাই কিছু নেই ঘর বাসা বাড়ি কিছু
ঘর নাই আমার
নদী
আমার
সব
ঘর
নিয়ে
নেই।
গেছে।
আমার বাড়ি ঘর
What are they saying?
আমার পুত্র নাই কিছু নেই
এখানে এখানে বলে কিছু হবে না
I
জাস্ট
can't-
কি
I
অবস্থা
can't-
আপনাদের
I
যাইতেছে
can't-
সেটাই আমরা
I don't have
ওনারা
food
যখন
with me.
এখানে কিছু নাই আমরা আসছি আপনাদের পজিশন অবস্থা কি যাচ্ছে যাই না যাইয়া আমরা সেগুলো ব্যবস্থা করার চেষ্টা করতেছি
আমার পুত্র নাই কিছু নাই আমার স্ত্রী কিছু নাই ভাই
They understand that we don't have food with us.
ঘর নাই দুয়ার নাই বাসা
আমি কিছু নাই আমি ঘরে থাকতে পারি না
It is the same throughout Bangladesh. Thousands of isolated groups of hungry people. Millions of acres still underwater. Mile after mile of ruined paddy field. Hundreds of thousands of tons of rice destroyed. It will be impossible to bring food to all those who are now starving in Bangladesh. There are 65,000 villages. Even in the dry season, most of them are hard to reach. When half the country is covered by floods, when roads and bridges have been washed away, they are cut off, save by water or air. The government lacks the boats, the staff, to reach all the hungry. Even if grain arrives from abroad, it can't get far enough, fast enough, into the interior. The helicopters, on loan from the Russians, carry what they can, but they're only a gesture. There are but 4 of them. They can lift only a minute proportion of what is needed to a fraction of those who need it. The people in the disaster area are already desperately hungry. They are now threatened with mass starvation. 30 years ago in this country, 4 million people died of hunger. Each year since then, men, women and children have starved to death. Bangladesh is the most crowded nation on earth. She has nearly 80 million mouths to feed. In the last 20 years, the population has doubled. It is growing faster than anywhere else in the world. In the next 20 years, it will double again. This flood is not an isolated incident in an otherwise happy land. The disaster of Bangladesh is that disaster is now permanent. For the hungry masses who've never seen it, Dhaka, the capital of Bangladesh, is a dream city, a mecca for those with nothing in search of a future. The dream has brought more than 1 million peasants crowding into the city, has doubled the population in 3 years. But there are no houses, few jobs, and little food. civil servants spend their entire salary on rice. Casual labourers, even if they can get work, don't earn enough to keep their families. The dream is a delusion. The biggest jute mill in the world, the centre of industry in Bangladesh. It's the country's only major export. The economy stands or falls around jute. At the moment, it's falling. The industry, nationalised at liberation, is ailing. Inefficient, unproductive, broken machines, no spare parts. It's the same in every sector of the economy. The industrial production throughout the country runs at a third of capacity. To grow, Bangladesh must now beg or borrow from abroad. Export earnings are static. Imports have trebled in price. World inflation and the crippling price of oil have turned their 5-year plan into so much waste paper. With no growth, there are no jobs. With no jobs, there's no money. With no money, there's no food. The economy of Bangladesh is in a disastrous state. Jute provides nearly all the export earnings, all the foreign exchange. But all that goes on buying oil, without which there'd be no transport, no communications, no light, and food, without which there'd be mass starvation. The result is that the country can't afford to buy what it needs from abroad. In fact, Bangladesh is bankrupt. But an economy in a state of siege does not ruin all. Some prosper. At the Dakar Club, a wedding has been arranged. Most of the guests arrive by car. Most of them are rich. Most of them have the air of those accustomed to the respect of lesser mortals. By no means all the people at this wedding feast are corrupt, but too many of them are. Riches and corruption in Bangladesh are constant companions. In a bankrupt land, the corrupt make a killing while their countrymen starve. Three years ago, most of these people were without power. They lived under the yoke of Pakistan. Some of them led the fight for independence. Their political movement, the Awami League, once sought to build a nation out of Bangladesh. But now they're in control, they've lost their way. A movement which once led the poor now protects the powerful. Without leadership, the best among them bicker, while the worst wallow in their riches. The government, lacking moral force, has a military arm, the Rakhi Bahini, the freedom fighters of 3 years ago, the heroes of the nation, the men who won Bangladesh from Pakistan. At liberation, these men, then a guerrilla force, were told to give up their arms. Most refused. With no war to fight, they were a challenge to the law and order of a fledgling state. The government, fearful of rule by gun-toting gangs, made respectable men of them. It dressed them in uniform, trained them, and gave them new weapons. The Rakhi Bahini are zealous servants of the government. Their job, to stamp out those whom the government calls antisocial elements, smugglers, black marketeers, and too often those who dare protest against the authorities. But while they protect the men in power, the country is collapsing about them. The victory of Bangladesh has turned sour. The prayers of the people have not been heard. They wanted work, they wanted food, they got this. The poorest quarter of the poorest city of the poorest country in the world, the slums of Dhaka in the center of the city. At least 250,000 people live here. They came out of hunger from the country in search of a fresh start. They live in squalor, walk in their own sewage. More than half of them suffer from malnutrition. Disease kills their babies and their old people. 90% of them will die by the age of 40. Only a handful can read, write, or get work. Once, even in poverty, the people had rice. Now there are too many people and not enough rice. The shortage, the black market, and world inflation have made a luxury of what should be a staple food. In 18 months, the price of rice has doubled and doubled again. It now costs 4 times what it did last year. The poor are getting poorer. They cannot now buy rice. Occasionally, very occasionally, there's a free handout of food from the few to the many, from the rich to the poor. The survival ration for one adult for one day is a little under 1 pound of grain. These people get nothing like as much. Some have a ration card, the passport to food at a low fixed price. But the ration is too little and they can't afford the price. The craving for food is constant.
It's in a situation like this that you really see what hunger means in Bangladesh. Here, talk about minimum subsistence levels of food means nothing at all, because these people, the poor of this town, are very nearly starving all the time. Yesterday was a festival, the festival in the Muslim faith under which Allah determines the future of these people for the next year. Therefore, they've got a special handout of food today. They haven't had food for the last God knows how long, and after this they won't have it again. They'll be reduced again to beggary.
Hunger snaps all restraints. There is no dignity in starvation. Alarming it may be, but scenes like this could be witnessed in every town, city and village of Bangladesh. It is the chaos of Dhaka to which the victims of the flood now trek in their search for food. They are now flocking to the city from the starving countryside in their thousands. But there's no room for them in the slums. At the port, they lie wherever there's space. They are hungry and exhausted. At Dhaka main station, it's the same. Waiting, hungry people. Husbands and wives, mothers and children from 10, 100, 200 miles away. Whole families are here. They've come to the city for the first time in their lives. They have nothing. The dream is shattered. Shocked and bemused, they sit and wait.
Jan, I just want to ask some of these people where they've come from and what's happened to them. Can you ask this old man where he comes from?
আপনি কোথা থেকে আসছেন চাচা? He's from Mamilching district.
How far away roughly is that from Dakar? You can tell- you can tell me.
150 miles.
It's 150 miles.
Yes.
Why did he come down to Dakar?
আপনি কেন ঢাকা আসছেন? So he has lost everything, so he came to Dhaka for relief.
Has he had any relief?
আপনি কোনো রিলিফ পাইছেন?
No.
No, he don't have anything.
How long has he been here?
আপনি কতদিন পর্যন্ত এখানে? He is for here 10 to 12 days.
What does he think is going to happen to him?
আপনি কি ভাবেন যে আপনার কি হইতেছে এখন? So now he is begging.
Has he been able to get any food?
No. আপনি কোনো খাবার পান এখন? No, no,
No food.
no food.
Can you come round here?
Yes.
What is she doing here?
আপনি এখানে কি করেন? But she has 3 children and
She has 3 children.
Three
She's
children.
But she's a very young girl. She's
young
only
girl. Yes. But she has 3 children here, and to have the relief from here, she came here for begging.
Does she get relief?
আপনি কি রিলিফ পান? She don't get.
How long has she been here?
আপনি কতদিন পর্যন্ত এখানে? She is here for 5 days.
What does she think will happen to her now?
আপনি কি মনে করেন এখন আপনার কাছে কি কি ইয়ে করবে? But she is thinking now she is problem. She has a problem with 3 children, and she has nothing. And she has worn out the gents dress, the slongi, and
Yes.
she has nothing. She is nude, and only there is one thing and nothing.
That's all she has.
Here, she has nothing. She is we can say she is
Destitute. she is.
destitute.
Has he managed to get any food yet?
আপনি কি এই পর্যন্ত কোনো খাবার পাইছেন? No, he don't get anything.
When did he last eat?
আপনি কবে শেষ খাইছেন কয়দিন আগে?
3-4 দিন না
4 days ago he had his meal.
What is he going to do now? What is he going to do?
আপনি এখন কি করেন চাচা? But he is moving here to here from here to there to for rounds.
That is all he can do.
Yeah.
But does he think he will be able to get enough food in Dakar to keep alive before he can go back?
আচ্ছা আপনি কি মনে করেন ঢাকাতে যথেষ্ট খাবার দাবার পাইবেন যদি ঢাকা থেকে? আপনি কি মনে করেন ঢাকাতে গ্রামের চেয়ে বেশি পাইবেন? He thinks that he will be able to get more foods in Dhaka, not in the village.
But so far he hasn't got any food in
No,
Dakar.
so far he don't have any food in Dhaka.
So he's just living on hope.
Yeah.
This child is lying here. There are no parents around. Has she been abandoned or? Is this? I've seen quite a lot of little children sitting around
Yes.
like this just by themselves.
Yes, a lot of children, a lot of child you will see like this in Bangladesh just now.
What will happen to this child, do you think?
There is nothing. We don't say anything what will happen to them because they have no father, they have no mother just now. Because they will lie like this one on the platform all day. But if there is any kind-hearted man comes here, he or she can give something to them.
But if no one comes to give anything to them?
But they have to die by this way, nothing else.
It is not foreign goods or machines or investment that will save these people. It is not even tents or blankets or drugs or soap. To survive, to begin to live, the people simply need food, and of that there is not yet enough. Bangladesh now faces the threat of mass starvation before the end of this year. Each week, the hunger grows. Each week, the disaster gets worse.